Seriously, Bud is brought to you by OmniSend. OmniSend is a top choice for email and SMS marketing on WordPress, perfect for WooCommerce shops. Easily connect with customers and send out awesome campaigns every day. Hello, my name is Bree, and welcome to Seriously, Bud, a podcast featuring an unexpected conversation with someone in the WordPress community. And now it's time for my dad, Bud Kraus.
Thank you, Bree. You know, I had so much fun last week speaking with Katie Keith. I thought I would do this all over again. Now, I'll be back at the end to give you my thoughts about this week's episode. It's number 36. So here we go. Topher, DeRosia, welcome to Seriously, Bud. I just learned, because I read this a second ago, that you're into aviation and aerospace. So am I. But I did not pilot a plane over the Bering Sea. Let's start with that.
All right. Well, when I was in college, I went to Alaska on a missions trip. We were going to go build some dorms for a kids camp. And one of the guys who lived there was a retired minister. And one of the churches that he had founded many years ago, their pastor was going somewhere on vacation or whatever and asked him to go speak. And it's on an island. And he said, I'm going to fly there and I can take one person who wants to go. And I said, I'll go. And so away we went. He very graciously allowed me to pilot his precious plane. It's very interesting. For a while, we flew along the coast and the cliffs were high enough that we were below the tops of the cliffs. We were looking into people's living room windows as we flew by.
Was this a single engine plane, a prop, I'm sure?
Yeah.
And you were actually flying it? You had the stick,
Yep.
the whole thing?
Yeah, I have my pilot's license. I got my license for a 92.
And do you fly now? I assume you fly once in a
No.
while.
I haven't flown since probably 92.
It's an expensive hobby.
Oh, very.
What about your interest in aerospace? I mean, they sort of go together. Do you follow all goings-on of NASA and the space station? And wait a second before you go on. You designed what? Windows? What? For the International Space Station? Come on.
Yeah. You remember themes in Windows 95? Desktop themes?
Vaguely.
Yeah, you could install a desktop theme and it would set your wallpaper and make the sounds certain ways and your icons certain ways.
Right.
I made the official one for the International Space Station. And the way that happened is pretty funny. I made it just for fun. And I went to the NASA website and I found an email address of somebody who was maintaining the website. And I just emailed her and said, hey, look, I made this thing. And she said, great, I'll put it on the website right now.
So people were able to download it from the website.
Yeah.
And use it. It didn't come automatically installed with the operating system, right?
No, but only like 10 did. And in fact, I don't know. I'm not sure any did. You had to buy Microsoft Plus to get themes.
Figures.
And but there were websites where you could download thousands of themes.
Gee, do you ever wonder if anybody on the space station ever saw this? You have to.
I'll bet they didn't.
Yeah, I guess they were busy with other things. Do you follow the goings on with space and?
Yeah, much more casually now than I used to. When I was a wheelhead, I wanted to be an Air Force pilot. I wanted to fly fighter jets. So I learned everything there was to know about pretty much every fighter jet in the world, every nation, all their weapons. I knew exactly what could carry how much or what and how far and all of it.
Really? And
then somebody told me, Topher, they don't let blind people fly.
Wait a minute. You're blind?
At the time, I was legally blind.
Is that so?
Yep. When I was in college, I had radial keratotomy, which is where they take the knife and cut the surface of your eyeball while you're looking at the knife. That was pretty spooky. And that got me 20/20 vision, but they didn't take that either. You can't have it be corrected in any way. And so I said, well, fine, I'll just be a pilot on my own. And so I went to college to be a pilot and then decided I didn't like it. So that was that. But I do love NASA. When I was 3, what I wanted to be was an astronaut. I do love NASA. I follow, like when they were starting to put robots on Mars, I followed every one of them. The Cassini probe to Saturn, I was there the day it arrived at Saturn and watch it online, and all that stuff. I love that stuff.
I personally am hoping that I live long enough to see people walk on Mars. I mean, that is really one of my ambitions I just want to see that so bad. And something tells me it will be a woman of color who will be the first person to ever walk.
Oh, really? What? Why do you think that?
Because a white guy walked on the moon. So he sort of balanced things out. I don't know.
Sure.
Who knows, but I think it's going to be a woman of any sort. I mean, it just sort of seems kind of right, or I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. I just want to be around for it because that will be one of the, if not the most spectacular moment in human history to see people walking on Mars. Wow. Imagine that. You mentioned college a second ago, and I know a little bit about your college days because your wife, Kate DeRosia, who is well known, just like you, said that, you guys met in college.
Yeah, I was done with college when we met. I'm the old man poaching the cute college girls.
I thought you were taking a class in college, and that's where you met her. No?
That's where she saw me.
Uh-huh.
And she spent the rest of her college career avoiding me because I was a super nerd.
Yes, that's what she told me, yes.
I headed school in 90 at a very, very small school that had a strong aviation program. And after my third year there, they ran out of money and merged with another school in town. And that school said,
we'll get back to Topher and the rest of his story in just one moment. Now, hey there, what's a great way to find out who's in the WP world? Well, just go to thewp.world to find out and let others know about you too. That's the WP.world. Now, let's get back to the show.
Because this is a merger and you're not just transferring, we will take all of your credits, no questions asked. And I had a 2-year degree and they said, come here for 2 more years, you'll get a 4-year degree. And I said, okay, sign me up. However, that's where I discovered the internet and fell in love with that and out of love with aviation. So in my 5th year, I took instrument ground school. And then when it was time to fly, they needed $20,000 up front and I didn't have it. And I didn't want to fly. So I didn't want to borrow $20,000 to go do something I didn't want to do. So I changed my major and I went to the school and I said, what's my nearest exit? I've got all these credits.
Right.
What can I do? And they said, you could get a religion degree and then you'd graduate. And I said, fine, let's do it. And so I ended up with 6 years of college. But interestingly, none of my aviation credits counted toward the religion degree. So in my 6th year, I had to take all the freshman classes. I took skiing, swimming. I took intro to biology.
Basket weaving.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it was great because I was actually learning the internet. That's the year I learned really how everything works on the internet.
What was the first thing that you saw when it comes to the internet? You remember?
Well, yeah. In fact, it was a very particular point in time. The college campus had a mainframe, a VAX VMS, with dumb terminals all over campus. So you could email people a half a mile away. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And one day, the head of the computer department said to me, next semester, we're connecting to the internet. And I remember the words coming out of my mouth. What is the internet? And that's where it all began. So we got email first. And after that, one semester that we got Telnet. And with Telnet, I could connect to servers all over the world for Gopher and
Archie, Veronica, that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And news readers, right? For all the children out there that are listening. Those are news readers, weren't they?
No. Veronica was a search engine.
Okay.
Archie was a search engine for Usenet. What was it? There was another one. Jughead.
Yeah. And there was Gopher. Or did you mention Gopher? Yeah.
Yeah. Gopher is the browsing tool that people used. And that was invented by University of Minnesota, who are the Golden Gophers. We could tell that to the University of Arizona and connect to a server that had links on it for the browser. These are crazy times when you could just, with an unsecured connection, connect to any server in the world. When we first got Telnet, we would Telnet to the college down the road and connect to their mail server and spoof headers from god@heaven.org and freak out our friends thinking they had email from God. And I mean, we go through all these loopholes today to try to block spammers from having access to the wrong sort of email. And back then, you just walk in the front door of every mail server in the world and do whatever you wanted.
It's so cool that you remember all this. And, I'm sure it was quite riveting. It was game-changing, riveting. It was mind-boggling. And that we saw really, in many ways, the beginning of.
Yeah. It was deeply, deeply exciting for me.
I remember these tools were basically text-based applications, if I recall.
Yep.
There weren't any images in there. And one last thing about this is the web. What was the first web browser you used? What was the first website you saw? Do you have any idea?
Link's the first browser I used. It's text-based. First site I used, I couldn't tell you. But I did surprisingly skip over Mosaic, the first graphical browser. So my first graphical browser was Netscape 0.9. So I have been a Netscape Firefox Mozilla user since 0.9. And I tell you the other day, Firefox is up to 134 or something.
Now, what about your beard? I have to ask a couple of beard questions. You have the longest, most unusual beard, I think, in the WordPress community. How long have you had that sucker? And I know it's quite a while, I have a feeling.
Yeah.
Was it always that long, too? That shape, that long?
Well, I mean, it grows a little every day.
Yeah, but you cut it. Haven't you cut it in the last?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The longest span was probably just this last summer, and it was down to the middle of my chest. My wife doesn't like it that long.
Does she cut it or you cut it?
She cuts it.
She cuts it.
For a long, long time, I had a short goatee. I just cut it with a buzzer. And then I just got too lazy to cut it, and it got longer and longer and longer.
I have never seen you with a shorter goatee. This is what I would call a full-length goatee. What do you call it? You have a name for this thing?
No, just a goatee. I'll tell you this. My children have never seen my chin, and they're in their 20s.
What about you? Have you ever seen your chin?
Yeah, yes.
It's been a while.
But my wife's only seen it 1 or 2 times, and we've been married for more than 25 years.
Oh, I have to ask you about your name. Now, it dawned on me the other day, because is that Topher? Let me think. Would that be short for Christopher? Yes. How did that come about? Who started that?
When I was 3, my aunt was watching me while my mom was at work, and she asked me, "What's your middle name?" And I knew Chris was the first part and DeRosia was the last part. And the full thing was Christopher DeRosia. Right. So Topher must be my middle name. So I said Topher. And she laughed and wrote it on the fridge and called my grandma and all of that. It was only casually used after that until I got to college. And there were 4 Chris's on my floor in the dorm. And we all picked something. And I went with Topher. And that's been there ever since.
Does anybody call you? What do they call you? Chris before all this, I'm assuming?
Yeah. People called me Chris.
Yeah, but Topher is so you. It never even dawned on me. I thought you were born with the name Topher. I said, that's kind of an unusual name.
No, I use Chris formally, filling out papers. When I call for reservations at a restaurant, I use Chris. Because everybody knows Chris, and nobody's ever heard of Topher.
Do you find that you have internally a different persona for Chris or Christopher and Topher? Are they different people in your mind, or are they the same person?
Different people. Chris and Christopher are someone I only know through documentation.
For legal purposes, he's a person. No, other than that, you really don't know Christopher, right?
Right.
I find it, in my case too, because Bud obviously is not my real name.
Seriously, Bud?
There you go. My real name is a name I rarely say out loud. I really feel like I have 2 very different personas. Yeah. One is the Bud or Buddy, which Buddy is actually I prefer. Buddy is what I was called in my childhood. And since I'm going through a second childhood, I would rather be called Buddy now. People like me have really sort of like 2 different personas. Like the other one is the one I hardly know. I almost can't stand, quite frankly. And this one is fine. The Bud one is the one I know. So one thing I have to tell you that I don't know if I ever told you this, but I once heard you on a webinar. I forgot what it was. Anyway, you were telling a story, and I said, this guy is really good at telling stories. Are you typing?
Sure. I'm taking notes.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, right. I mean, you're probably sending an email.
I am.
Okay. Nobody types when I talk. You go ahead, do whatever you want. What do I care? Just stick around. You got to answer the questions. Okay, so the question is, I was listening to you tell a story. I forgot what the story was, but it was really good. The way you told a story, I said, this guy is really good at telling stories. 2 questions. One is, do you know that you're really good at telling stories? You probably like telling stories. And
I have been told that. Yeah.
Well, hold on. We're not done. And 2, is that one of the reasons why HeroPress came around? Tell me a little bit about HeroPress.
Yes, I have been told many times that I'm good at telling stories, which doesn't surprise me because I enjoy it so much. And in fact, this is a funny story. We recently moved to a new part of our state, and very near the new place, like just a couple of miles, is a distillery, and they're hiring a tour guide and storyteller at a whiskey place.
Oh boy. Did you apply?
I absolutely applied.
I know you. I'm not surprised to hear that.
The pay is almost nothing, but I would do that for free. My goodness.
Wow.
Tell stories about whiskey all day.
That is definitely up your alley.
Yeah.
I know that you love stories. Tell me more about, was it always that way with you? When you were a little kid, did you like that kind of stuff?
I think so. I've always, I didn't really start telling them till I was older, but I've always loved reading. Dearly loved reading.
I know you do. Yeah.
Every Saturday when I was a kid, I would ride my bike 5 miles to town with a backpack full of books and swap them out at the library and hope that I got enough to last the whole week. Yeah, I love a good story.
Is it true? Is it safe to say that you prefer fiction over nonfiction?
For the most part, yeah, that's primarily what I read. I do enjoy nonfiction. I like history, and so, and aviation. So, I've read a ton about the aviation of the Korean War, the aviation of the Vietnam War, the aviation of World War II, stuff like that.
So HeroPress.
Yep.
When did HeroPress start? And tell me what it is in case there's one human being that doesn't know what HeroPress is. I doubt
I still run into them. So HeroPress started 10 years ago in November of 2014.
Congratulations. 10 years.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
I was working for XWP, which is a WordPress agency, and the owner was not really involved in the company anymore. He hired managers to take care of it, and he was off doing his thing. One morning, I woke up. He's in Australia. He's Australian. Mm-hmm. His daytime is my nighttime, etc. So I woke up one morning to an email that said, "You're not working for XWP anymore. I want you to do something special for WordPress." That was it. That's all it said. So I wrote back and I said, "What is it?" And he said, "That's your journey to discover," which is both a blessing and a curse because I have the freedom to do whatever, but I have all the rope in the noose to hang myself. So he hired an Indian web development company and put them at my disposal. That if you're going to build something, use these guys. And so I got to know my contact there. And at first he was very formal, Mr. Topher, sir, that kind of thing. But we became more and more friends. And one evening, he just kind of let loose. He was very frustrated. His company was actually a group of freelancers that got together to see if they could do better that way. And it wasn't working. And he said, "How do we get contracts from the West?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm not a businessman. I'm not Indian. I don't know any of that stuff." But I wanted to help him because he was obviously hurting. And I thought, who would know? And I asked around and somebody said, WordCamp Mumbai just happened. And the organizers are all successful WordPress business people. So I connected them and they talked to each other. I stayed out of it. They talked to each other and they helped him. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could help people around the world like that? Except I don't want to be the great white savior with my American perspective and privilege and dollars. I need to connect peers. I need to connect Africans to Africans and Asians to Asians and Eastern Europeans to Eastern Europeans, etc. So we were going to make something like TED with the videos and travel around the world and have people talk about, they wanted to talk about whatever they thought their peers needed to hear. And so Dave, who's the guy that started it, he said, "Okay, let's do it. We will call it HeroPress." And he went out and spent $12,000 on the domain name.
Wow. $12,000 on that?
And keep in mind, during all the months that we were building up on this, he was paying me out of pocket, not through XWP. So Dave has an enormous amount of influence behind this. He said, "Let's do a Kickstarter and let's raise 60,000 Australian dollars, which is about 45,000 US. And if it doesn't work, then we walk away. It's done. We're over." I learned later he didn't actually need the money. What he wanted was 60,000 $1 donations. He wanted 60,000 people to say, "Yeah, this is a good idea," which has never happened.
Well, I love the concept. I mean, that's...
Yeah. On the first day, we got $5,000 each from 3 companies, which was exhilarating, but not proving the point. And long-term total, we probably got less than $20,000. And with Kickstarter, if you don't make it, you don't get any money. That's one of the differences between that and GoFundMe. GoFundMe will let you have a fraction of whatever you raise. Kickstarter, you get it all or nothing. And we didn't make it. So that was it. We all walked away and I didn't have a job and HeroPress was dead. And people started saying, "Hey, you can't let this die. This is too great of an idea." And I thought, well, I'm not going around the world with a camera crew. I'm broke. I'm poor. So I thought, how can we still do it? And I thought, well, if it was text, then the authors could write it themselves.
Right.
You don't have 4 months of editing. The bandwidth is much, much lower. The bandwidth to download a text, 1,500 words compared to a 4K video.
Well, right. The whole barrier to entry to pull this off is not
our audience was South Pacific Islanders, Indians and Central Africans, and they're not running 4K video. So I went to the guy that, DeRosia. He was going to be one of my video people. And I said, would you write it? He said, sure. And it was wildly popular. Just crazy traffic that day. And I thought, oh, hey, maybe I should get another one. First 3 months, I didn't think to get ahead. I was like, every week, I was like, oh no, I have to get another one.
In the early days, you probably obviously found it very easy to get people to write. I was one of them. I mean,
yes,
everybody wanted, but how about today? Is it harder or same or what?
It's not that hard to get people to write, but far more of them say, yes, I will write and I will get back to you 5 months from now with my essay. And often they don't, they forget, and I have to go track them down. In the early days, I'd be like, hey, can you write and have it to me in a week and a half? They're like, sure, no sweat. And that just doesn't happen anymore. And so I don't post every week anymore.
If people want to read all these stories, and how many stories do you think you have now collected at Hero? You kind of know the answer to that. It's HeroPress.com.
Yep, HeroPress.com.
Yeah. And my story's in there somewhere. It's buried in digital dust. Because now I have to tell you a funny little story, because before I had ever seen you, I connected with you by email. I have no idea how.
Sure.
And I said, I'll submit my story. And you'd write back these terse, like 2-word answers to everything I asked. Oh, you think it's funny, huh? So I said, who's this kid Topher? I thought you were 24 years old.
I was. I just aged terribly.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Maybe you were back then, but no, I kept saying, this guy, I ask questions and I'm getting 2-word answers, and I'd like a little more to help me out so I don't have to send him back another email. And I finally got out of you what I needed to. And then, of course, over time, I got to meet you and know you a little bit and stuff like that. So, but it was really funny because my first reaction was, this guy's like Janet doing this.
Yeah. No, I was, 10 years ago, I was in my mid-40s.
What's the preponderance of articles from a continent? Would it be Asia, Africa? Do you have that?
I'm going to say Asia because it's India. India loves HeroPress.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
I know. I mean, I could tell.
I asked a friend of mine one time, why? What is it about HeroPress that Indians love? And he said, because when you ask them, you promise not to edit. I don't edit. I'll fix the occasional misspelled word, but I don't fix broken English. I don't rephrase, none of that. And he said to me, for the last 400 or 500 years, India has been edited by the West as a country. Their history, their culture, their language, their food, all of it has been edited by the West, have been borrowed and stolen and changed and twisted. And to have somebody promise that they can say whatever they want, and it will go out there to the world and not be edited and be them truly, was a big deal. And that made it a big deal to me. I did not know that I was offering that. I didn't know that I had this big gift that I could offer.
It's interesting. Do you ever have repeats? I don't think you do, right? You don't allow repeats.
Yes, I've had maybe 3 now. And just the other day, do you know Rebecca Gill? By coincidence, she now lives about 2 miles from me. She did an essay years ago, and I asked her to do another one because WordPress has changed her life again, a second time. And she said, yeah, absolutely.
I want to ask you, you said you moved. Now, Grand Rapids is where you were, right?
4 months ago, we left Grand Rapids to go to Muskegon, which is on the lake shore, maybe 40 minutes from Grand Rapids.
Okay, now for the lake shore, we're talking about Lake
Michigan.
Michigan, right?
Yep.
And how high up?
We're probably 2 hours north of Chicago.
Okay.
Or we were.
You moved west.
Yes. Last week, we moved north, about 2 hours north. Yeah. So we now live 5 miles from a town of 100 people.
Oh, boy. How far are you from the UP, right? UP.
Yeah. We're probably an hour and a half south of the UP. And then that's at Mackinac. And so from Mackinac to Sault Ste. Marie, where it touches Canada closest, is probably another hour.
Oh, wow. You're way up there. It must be really pretty.
It is really pretty. Yep.
Yeah. I would love to see that. I don't think I've ever been there. I've been to Flint, Cadillac, stuff like that on the other side. I don't think I've been up that high in Michigan.
Okay. So we are half an hour from Cadillac.
And what made you move up there?
And a couple of things. We weren't crazy about the place we had moved to. We went mostly for the price. And it was a third floor walk up. We lived there 20 years ago, actually. And we liked it then. But third floor walk up with 2 armfuls of groceries is a lot harder when you're 50 than it is when you're 20. And then the place we moved to belongs to my in-laws. And it's a cabin on the family farm. And they're going to let us stay there for free. Let's move up north into the woods by the lakes for free. No.
Well, I would do that in a second. It's my kind of way to live. I mean,
Yeah.
I love cities, but what you're describing is heaven. That's really nice.
That's pretty great.
What do you think you're going to be doing in the next couple of years? Because what are you doing now? I know that you create content too. You do some of that work yourself.
I do.
We're competitors. Get out of the way. Right.
We're actually not really, I don't think.
I know. Too bad.
A year ago, I started my own business. In the 9 months before that, I had been let go from 3 jobs.
Oh boy.
In 9 months because they ran out of work. And I had been taking jobs for the stability, and that wasn't it.
That was not stability. 3 different companies ran out of work.
Yeah.
These were web design agencies, I'm assuming, or something like that.
None of them was a web company, but didn't really do WordPress. And so when they ran out of WordPress work, they still had plenty of other stuff, but they just didn't need me. Then I joined a company that was growing too fast, and they didn't know it at the time, but they burned out in 3 or 4 months. Then I joined another company who hired 7 people because they were getting a big contract. Then not only did they not get the contract, but they lost one they'd had for 10 years. And so all 7 of us got let go again right away. So I started my own thing. Ideally, I make how-to videos for WordPress stuff.
And you do a good job. Let me just say right before you go any further, I've seen your stuff. It's good.
You.
It's really good. At OS training, Robbie Adair, your stuff is good.
Thank you. It's not making enough money yet, so I'm making websites also.
What is it about? You said that you love web design. You still love web design?
I enjoy solving problems. And so I call myself a back-end developer. I'm doing a lot more front-end stuff with Gutenberg these days. I like the cadence theme. And so I can build out a site, but then I need to use my PHP skills to extend some of their blocks.
This is my fault because we're talking too much about whatever. Because I was just curious. I mean,
I'm making videos and I'm building websites. I'm still looking for a great job. And if one shows up, I'll probably take it. It would make some things easier in life. I have a lead on a great one right now that I'm not going to tell you about.
Okay.
Because I don't know if it's happening or not. But if it does, I will probably have to move.
Well, Topher, I don't know how I can say this, but with all your contacts, I mean, you know everybody.
I do know everybody, and none of them need me.
I wonder why that's so. I mean, here we go again with the WordPress, but it's because technical skills aren't good enough, right? Is that what your design skills are, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me what it is. Maybe I can help. Who knows?
Yeah. So I want to make videos. Not very many places want to commit to a full-time person, or they want something a little different than what I'm talking about. For example, I have talked to both Katie Keith from Barn 2 and what's her name from Formidable about working for them full-time. And in the end, they hired somebody else because I do straight screencasts in my voice and that's it. And they wanted somebody who could do some animation and, be on camera and all that kind of stuff. And it didn't fit, which is totally fair. And it's working for them. And I'm very happy for them. When it comes to a web development standpoint, I am not a full stack developer.
Right.
I don't have JavaScript.
You're better at it than me. And although I've learned how to write for developers, more technical stuff. I'm not a developer.
In looking for full-time jobs, I'm looking outside of development. Developer relations, it's telling stories to developers. I can do that. And in that world, I'm much less well-known and I have much less experience. So I'm kind of starting over and same story for everybody.
Well, I wish you well. And I know you'll get there because, like I said, you know everybody in the world. And like you said, you do.
Yeah. Can I speak to that for a second?
Sure.
I've heard that for years. Topher is going to be easy for you to get a job. You know everybody. A couple of years ago at WordCamp US, somebody at a booth said, "Oh man, we'd hire Topher in a second." And after WordCamp, I emailed them and said, "Hey, I'm looking for work. Are you hiring?" They're like, "Oh no, that was just saying that." Sophia has
your daughter.
Yep, has been told all of her WordPress life, "Oh, it's going to be so easy for you to get a job in WordPress because of your parents. Everybody knows you." And it wasn't. It was hard. She applied to 24 places and got rejected over and over and over.
Oh, boy.
And when she finally did she went through 3 jobs quite quickly and had terrible experiences. She's like, boy, I grew up believing this would be easy because everybody told me, everybody knows you. It's going to be easy. And it wasn't.
She's disillusioned.
Yeah. And I try to be careful when I hear other people in a similar position. I don't want to say that to them. I don't want to say it's going to be easy for you because of who you are, or who you know, or what you do, or anything like that. Because
I'm sorry. I just learned something, and but I'm going to call you guys the first family of WordPress. I've been doing that for like a couple of years now. Okay, Topher, this is going to be the end, but not really the end, because I'm going to ask you the final question, which is, who do you suggest I interview?
Yeah, I'm going to say Rebecca. She'd be great.
Oh, so you are going to stick with Rebecca?
Yep, I'm going to stick with Rebecca.
Okay, so Rebecca Gill. So she's like 2 miles away. After this is over, you can go drive down to her and tell her. She may know me. She may, but she may not. Anyway, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
And
I do one last plug for HeroPress.
Why not?
Sure.
For you?
This fall, for the 10th anniversary, we're doing a fundraiser so that it'll be easier to keep doing HeroPress for the next 10 years. So if you're inclined, check it out. There's a donate link on the homepage. And if not, don't bother. Go ahead and read them all for free, forever. I'm never going to charge for HeroPress.
Hey, I'm all behind this because I am a contributor, donor, or whatever to your HeroPress project.
You are.
And I don't donate all that much money, but if half the people who read your articles were donators,
I would take $60,001 donations in a heartbeat.
There you go. Why not do it that way? All right, Topher. Yeah, thanks so much for doing this, okay?
Yep.
I'll be seeing you. Sure. Hey, I didn't know that Topher piloted a plane over the Bering Sea, that when he was a wheelhead, he wanted to be an Air Force pilot, that he once was able to spoof email headers, pretending to be God, and that he gave himself the name Topher. Did you? Now, don't forget, you can catch all the past episodes of Seriously Bud by going to seriouslybud.com. And until next time, thank you for your time.